What day was our budget meeting?
Started November
Last Thursday.
27th.
18th.
18th, it's deliberations, November 18th.
Miranda, I need help.
18th, 27th. No, second.
I missed my mouse.
Or, I think
You want your internet back? Is your internet back?
It's just downloading.
He asked me if he had his hairnet back. Like,
That would have been pretty
I'm like, whoa, why did you? One, why do you need internet?
Serves me correctly, there we are. I see we got
Whatever.
numbers in there. All right, so carrying on with where we left off in the last presentation. Basically, this is Operations Division Community and Protective Services. Oh, we're not running.
Quick meeting.
Not quite yet.
Take two.
You did really well, sir.
No.
Wait a second up there. Yay!
There's a reason he's in that corner.
Nobody puts Pinky in a corner.
What's Christopher?
Reconvene our budget discussions.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, now that I have got my stuff together and so has everyone else, we'll kick back off. So where we left off in the last discussion was we were right at the Operations Division Community and Protective Services budget. So I won't bore you too much with the detail. You can see it presented there pretty well. I guess the big piece to look at is the bottom line there, 3249004 versus 3149443. As you can see, it's an increase of 144K. Now there are a few pieces to that. Staffing wages and contributions accounts for 57K of that, which is a significant amount. You'll see the other piece being professional fees at 41K, user fees at approximately 45K. Now the speaking points here have notes to them, numbered notes. I'll go through those very shortly. So actually, instead of just running through like this, I'll switch straight to the notes. Number one, $36,000 increase in Fortis franchise fee to offset increase in policing costs. $5,000 increase in budget ice rental. Number two, bylaw induction course in 2025. That's obviously a 4.8K reduction. Number three is a $40,000 increase in policing costs. You'll see it there under professional fees. Number four being 3,700 addition of pool lockers, which we spoke about during the initiatives when I was speaking about the budget earlier. 2 new computers for staff at 8,800. Note number 5 is temporary reduction. We'll see increase due to PRV replacements due at Pemina Place. That's in our ice plant. They're all regulatory, unfortunately. 5K. Number 6 is Pemina Place debenture matured in 2025, and you will see 92K reduction, 92.5 technically. Number 7 is a $2,000 increase in donation to the food bank. We put that into the budget. We know their usage has increased substantially, so we added a little bit of money into the budget for the food bank. Number 8 is offsetting reserve transfer relating to the debenture. And Allegra can probably speak to that a little better than I can, but so if anyone has any other questions. Again, I'll just flip through $40,000 increase related to policing, plus the $36,000 increase in Fortis franchise fee to offset the increase in the policing costs. So pretty close, technically a $4,000 increase. So that's where we are landing.
Questions through to Mr. Davison. Go ahead, Councillor Olson. Could you go over, what was the $125,000 for the Staff, wages, what was that
It's
again?
different than what?
Yeah, so it is different now. So what had happened is, Excel struck again. So when I added in the additional line for the occupational health and safety coordinator, what it did to one specific individual's wages is it allocated them incorrectly. It just copied that formula for whatever reason instead of keeping it at the formula it should have been. So the allocation between Community Protective Services and then the other side of the operations division was completely skewed. So one was showing like a huge loss and one was showing a huge gain. So the offsetting is now correct. So I apologize for that oversight. Garnet caught it when he was going through his,
That's right, I caught the financial mistake.
yes.
But, no, it was,
Because when we went over, we went over the overview of like the differences in like wages and contributions, it was like as like a totality. So I looked at like the total amount year over year, and then as they split into departments, it was when we realized, or Garnet realized that
it was a little glaring. I was like, where did this 125K come from? But at the end of the day, it's a matter of splitting up costs, and so you'll see a little bit on the other pieces coming up. It wasn't me trying to hide some extra money.
yeah, and so this is the accurate split now.
Yep.
And it is one that we're going to do a bit of a deeper dive into just to make sure, because we did have those operational or organizational changes in 2023, and then the additional ones coming for 2026. So we just want to make sure that our wages are allocated appropriately per department, like after these changes. So.
Thanks, Allegra. So, and just to, sorry.
Clarify from my own head, the 57 right now is COLA and safety.
You bet. COLA, merit, safety.
Lost my train of thought for 2 seconds there. Just to remind everyone, Community and Protective Services does cover community services, FCSS, parks, recreation, the arena. So it's a pretty big box to sit 144,000 in. So it's can be deceptive, I guess, would be my point there. So if everyone's good with that, we'll move on to the operation division, being public works, utilities, planning, and economic development. Now, I looked at this budget, and again, it's got speaking notes that I'll go over very shortly. Bottom line, total expenses 5284297 to 5316660. It actually isn't too bad. That's not a sizable increase. The issue for me is I'll read through the points. I took a little bit of a gasp when I read it, but I had forgotten that Trina's economic development was in there. And I hadn't seen those numbers before I went on vacation. I saw them when I got back, and I almost fell over. But we are good. So Trina, we're going to take you right out of this. No, I'm joking. So I'll go through note 1, user fees. As you see there, 3,016,000 versus 3,247,000. So it's a drop. And I'll talk to number 2's note as well. So number 1, decrease in sewer revenue of 28K, gas revenue of 201,000. Increased reserve transfer, note number 2, increase to reserve transfer to offset new debenture added for 2026, 44,000 matching contribution for the NRED grant. Trina, can you tell us what the NRED grant is, please?
So the NRED grant is a provincial government grant funding program where it's a 50% matching grant. So at the direction of council, we have applied for the NRED grant for various tools, I guess, that economic development can use, and one being an economic development strategic plan, one being an economic development microsite, the other one being a gap analysis, an industrial gap analysis, and retail gap analysis. And so essentially all of those will guide us and give us the direction that we need in order to determine where economic development is going and what our community needs, as well as the surrounding areas regionally at the regional level as well. So that application has been applied for. I did apply for it on November 26th, right before the deadline, and we won't know anything until March. But as it stands right now, we do have the funds in reserve to be able to accommodate the 50%, so it kind of zeroes out if we were to be successful.
So talking note number 3 is the offset, I guess. Sorry, Rob.
So, just to throw something in there on that grant, if we do get it, as an aside, could we, part of that analysis could be what it would be worthwhile for Redwater to take over the highway through town and the effect that would have with Alberta Transport and that? I know, everybody, we were looking for our future, and that could be a key to it, and,
Could be,
but that's something to just look at. I'm not saying we do it or don't do it, but just,
depending on the results of the industrial component of it. That's where it might come in, the results of the study, the
part of the
feasibility.
study, if we could look at the effect that would have on our community, it's something to consider.
Go ahead, Councillor Olson. Through to administration. Can we get the updated numbers?
This one isn't on your presentation?
No.
It's not updated yet.
Right now, you're sitting at, Almine, you're at $40,000 difference, not 32. And it's the same as the last one, we were talking 125.
Okay.
That's what we have on our slide.
Yeah, and that's my mistake. So Miranda's showing the presentation that's on our drive right now, but she didn't. I did not give her the opportunity to send it through because I just sent it.
Mayor, can we just take,
I was gonna do it before the meeting, but then there was some computer
Mayor,
issues.
recess for 3 minutes so we can get copies for everybody?
We're just can you upload it in a few minutes? And then we just hit a refresh and away we go.
Sorry, I apologize, I wasn't aware.
So I've been looking, going, oh.
Oh, I thought we were continuing and.
No. We need that downloaded.
You're wondering why Garnet was so quiet.
I would have been off and running again.
I know. Period. As we let go of the reins.
I know.
I just need a couple of inches of room and I'm moving.
Shimmy through there.
Scroll down.
That's where it was, yeah.
You're not
November
there.
the 18th.
Now scroll.
Hold that one and it doesn't populate Garnet's presentation, so.
Let me know when we're good to go.
Yours isn't doing it.
Yeah, well. Technical. No, I'm just waiting for,
Scroll down a little further.
from Miranda.
Yeah, it was right here.
I've got the capital plan and the 3-year financial plan, but not the.
Right here, this is where you can call to order budget overview. Budget overview, and right in there, mine was right here. That doesn't make sense. We're on the same drive. We're pulling the same information.
I'm getting two different,
Yeah, the agenda comes up different for him than it does me.
Updated?
We good?
I haven't got the budget presentation anymore.
Yeah,
Council,
mine's
can we
disappeared
get
too
a
now.
recess for 5 minutes and we'll do some internet, go ahead, Councilor Olson.
Motion to recess for
10 minutes.
electronic updates.
10 minutes for
Oh,
electronic.
here it is, right here. Division budgets go down.
That's always been there.
No, it's updated.
It says updated there.
We don't have a presentation.
I'll call that question. All in favor? That's carried.
Because that's the
This is all I have.
let us know when we're offline. Feedback?
but it's probably a good idea.
It's on my screen, I can't.
Call us back to order after recess. Thank you, administration, for clearing up the electronic problem.
Can you click me back a couple of screens, please, mate?
Sorry. The computer should work now.
All right, so we'll bounce back to community and protective services as I had mentioned before. And now that we have some updated numbers, I'm happy we're all on the same page. If everyone can look at the balance, that's where we are, or where we will be. I like to talk about expenses because they're the ones that I really, really try to control. But obviously some pieces in those expenses are a little bit out of my control, insurance costs, things along those lines. We don't really dictate those. But the balance is negative 96K, as you can see there. And I'll just go over the notes again, now that we've all got the same, we're all on the same page. Note number one, $36,000 increase in Fortis franchise fee to offset the increase in policing costs, and a $5,000 increase in budgeted ice rental. Number two is bylaw induction course in 2025 of 4.8K. We won't see that in 2026. $40,000 increase in policing costs under number three, which I do believe is professional fees. And number four, a 3.7 addition of pool lockers that we spoke to in the capital initiatives in my prior slides last week. And two new complete computers for staff at 8.8K. Note number five is a temporary reduction. We'll see increase due to PRV replacements due at Pembina Place, which is a regulatory component and something that we must do. Note number six is Pembina Place debenture matured in 2025, which is sizable in our favour. Note number seven is a $2,000 increase in donation to the food bank. As I alluded to earlier, the food bank's been seeing a lot of patronage. It continues to increase, so we see a need to give them a little bit extra money. But as with many things in the budget, a lot of stuff is on the table for review. Note number eight is offsetting reserve transfer relating to the debenture. Any questions on the new numbers? Councillor Brown.
How much of your staffing costs are overtime and call time?
So sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
For the majority, we don't generally pay overtime. We do time in lieu.
Okay.
So that'll be a zero cost there. But obviously, there's an offsetting, there's a bonus and a negative to everything, as you know. Sometimes paying overtime is a better thing to do, because when you do time in lieu, often it's a time and a half, something along those lines. And when that happens, what you can wind up a lot of the time with is what we see in summer quite frequently is a lot of guys taking a lot of vacation in summer because they've racked up this till over winter and things, and call outs and things along those lines. The other one that hurts us a lot is the dog pound, which requires people to come in three times a day on the weekend. And as we know, our minimum charge for a call out is 2 hours, so you're whacked with 6 hours on each day on the weekend. So 12 hours, lose a couple of days. So it's pretty costly on both ends, whether we pay it out through salaries or whether we go through time in lieu. Does that answer your question?
It does. So just to follow up to that, so if you have guys who got lots of till time and take a big, you've got to backfill those folks too, right?
We don't.
You don't. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So we lose that labour force, generally speaking. Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting one.
So,
Go ahead.
I just will clarify, we try to keep our overtime costs as low as we can, but we can't keep time off in lieu forever. Like there's a point where, and we look at that on an annual basis between our overtime and vacation time, where we have policies that say you have to take it by X amount. And so there are times at the end of the year where we go, between your vacation time and your time off in lieu, you won't be here for half the next year. So we have to pay it out, but we don't quote budget for overtime.
No, that's all I need. Thank you.
Any more? Good. Perfect. So what I'll do is I'll move on. to Public Works, Utilities, Planning and Economic Development. So again, if we look at the balance, you can see a negative 99K thereabouts. Expenses have jumped up 32K thereabouts. Well, not thereabouts, that's what it is. But I'll just run through the notes. In reference to user fees, decrease in sewer revenue of 28K and a gas revenue of 201K. In reference to note number 2, increase reserve transfer to offset new debenture added for 2026, $44,000 matching contribution for the ANRED grant that Trina explained just prior. Note number 3 is the ANRED grant of $45.5K. Note number 4 on the staffing cost, training and other is 2 staff attending the Alberta Wastewater Operators Association. Increased training load for water and gas of 4K, Class 3 licensing of 2.3K, economic development training related to the NRED grant of 4K, and an increased cost for new conference for planning and development. I do not know that acronym, I apologize, for 2.8K. The big talking point here is we do want our people to be as professional as possible. We do want our people to be as educated as possible, and we do want them to be knowledgeable in what they do. Every year we are increasing our training budget, but you will see it fluctuate. It's not every year an increase. I should just wind that back a little bit, or the boss will shoot me afterwards. But at the end of the day, we do want to invest in our people. That's one of the things that we've promised as an organisation, because we promised council that we are going to deliver value for money, and we're going to deliver efficiencies. This is part of that parcel. Speaking note number 5 there, moving on from professional fees. Note number 6, purchase of a new AED in the Utilities and Public Works laptop, and monthly cleaning of the PW office. So we don't have an AED out at the shop. We really do need an AED out at the shop. Go ahead, Councillor Olsen.
Dr. Fortis,
In reference to?
AED, donation.
Oh, we can, certainly can. I will take that up, and we'll reach out to Fortis. Take a note, gentlemen. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Just for future on that too, is there's a large expense to having them.
Oh yeah.
So that's something that comes up in future budget processing, because I'm sure, I think there was 2 or 3 over at the pool in Pembina, and I think it was $700-800 a year per, just to for battery backups and all those kind of
batteries,
things.
pads, the whole little paraphernalia that comes with them. Absolutely, yeah. There's an ongoing cost to it. We budget that under our OH&S.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll see those in the budget, generally speaking. So what's the time on the pads again, mate? 5 years or something like that? 3 years, yeah.
It's just something we forget about sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
We have something and we forget about the maintenance side of it.
Absolutely, there's some rolling costs on everything, yeah. So it's not, we got 3 years to account for it, but we're on top of it, so to speak, except for going to Fortis. We'll chat to them. Note number 7 there, in reference to R&M, we've got a $6,000 reduction in emergency breakdown. Creeper gears and backhoe tires replaced in 2025. We added a backhoe bucket of 3K, additional winter mix for streets increase of 2K, and 20K reservoir inspection, which is something that we really need to do. It's been a while, and getting an inspection in there and having a look at the state of our reservoir is an important thing to do. And 5K in hydrant repairs. I don't need to harp on the hydrants. We know where we're at with our hydrants. We have a number of hydrants that aren't functioning in town, and so we definitely need to continue on with that. We have 2 being repaired, replaced right now.
Totally finished.
Perfect. We have 2 just finished, being repaired right now. We did 3 last year, and we did a couple with 52nd Ave as well. So we are motoring on to having our fire security handled, which is a big plus for us, and actually it's a really big plus for the town, because it's the last thing you don't want working. As I mentioned earlier, when we talk about additional winter mix, we told council, when I moved into this position, I told council you would get a very transparent look at what it costs us to control our winter snowfall. This is part of that process. We haven't ironed out all the kinks yet, but we're sure getting there, mate, right? So at the end of the day, we're, as council are aware, we are purchasing cooperative through Sturgeon County, so we do get our sand and salt at a reduced rate, which is fantastic. We piggyback off the county. But again, it's the volumes that we're working on straightening out, and we're pretty much, by next year, I think we're gonna be pretty flat. So you shouldn't see, obviously, the variable is the amount of snow load we get. But as a general rule, we like to stock up before winter, and then we try and run that stock through and make sure we're ready to go. So, moving on to speaking note number 8. So we have the new debenture added for underground infrastructure. And number 9 is a decrease in gas supply purchase of $177K.
Garnet, the reductions in the sewer revenue and the gas purchase supply, that's the trend we've seen for our purchase over the last 3 or 4 years now.
Absolutely.
It's going down considerably.
Yeah, so, a lot of it is staring us in the face. We know that people are under a little bit of pressure when it comes to financials these days. We know that there's a big push and a lot of grants on for energy efficient appliances. So a combination of the two has certainly worked together to I won't say hurt us. It's a good thing that people aren't using as much gas, but it's a bad thing for our revenue. So and the same can be said for water. Everyone is tightening their belts, and this is our result. So.
Fortunately, it costs the same amount to keep the system going, whether you put 2 drops through or 1 million.
Yep, the size of the system doesn't change because people are using less of it, that's for sure. And the downside to that is that we have to maintain it regardless. So at the end of the day, we are working hard on the utility side to make sure, as councillors are aware, with our infrastructure projects, but we are working hard to make sure that we're finding all the efficiencies we can and making sure we can load that system. So in the future, these decreases won't hit us as hard in the pocket as they are currently.
So this has nothing to do with secure energy being down and having a huge gas loss?
There's certainly pieces to it when Secure is not on and when they are on. Are they currently off, mate? They're off for a period.
They're taking a small amount.
That's what I thought.
They're not at full capacity, so.
Yeah, they're certainly reduced.
They were down for 2 full months.
They were, yep. They closed the gates, and we had prior to that, we already had some issues with their metering in the past, but for the most part, their close down certainly hurt us. But
But the trend is certainly there over the last couple of years. Like
the
it's
trend is
not
certainly going
It's
down.
not a 2-month trend. It's a couple, 2-3 year trend.
Sorry, Allegra.
Yeah, and that's why we use 3-year averaging though. We look at those trends just to make sure that we're normalizing any fluctuations, like a major plant shutting down for 2 months too.
Yeah, it's a tough gig sometimes when we're staring down the barrel of the current I guess the financial situation people find themselves in. As we know, our gas losses are minimal. We're at a very good percentage, and actually a lot better than a lot of the surrounding people that run their gas systems, because I won't say municipalities, because we're a rarity in the fact that we do run our gas system. But at the end of the day, yeah, the trend is down, and that's what we're staring down the barrel of. But our fees aren't going down, are they, Councillor Olson?
Just for the new councillors there with the added debenture, we'll see that forever and ever. Every year will be an added debenture if we keep going on with our rolling plan for our underground infrastructure projects. We'll close to that debenture mark every year pretty well.
And so that's a really good point, actually, Councillor Olson. Everything is up for debate and everything is up for discussion, and council's direction is what at the end of the day that administration will follow, regardless. So if you don't see value in certain things that we're doing, please bring it up, and we'll always discuss it, and we'll move from there. Thanks, Councillor Olson. And I believe that's me.
That's the 4 slides I cut you off of last time.
That's right. It would have been a lot better if we got them done.
You wouldn't have got home till 11 o'clock.
That's true. I can handle it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I was joking.
Thanks, Davison. it's your turn, Mr. Van Buell.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So, start with our challenges out of the office of the CAO, and included in this is planning and development and economic development. As we found out late before the last term ended of council, one of our challenges in the upcoming year is going to be non-compliance of accessory buildings and encroachments onto MRERs and right-of-ways, with practical and consistent enforcement solutions still being identified for council consideration. So, if you remember, we had the incident where we had a neighbor say, hey, my neighbor's shed is too close to the fence, and we went, yeah, guess what, so was yours. And as we look around, it's a common issue around the community. So we're gonna have to come up with some solutions that, you know, don't penalize everybody, but have some resolution to them. The other part of this is on our right-of-ways, and we have a lot of encroachments. And we found this out, not last year, the year before, darn it, when we had our gas line project in. And we had to isolate a part of the line and trying to find valves, and literally it looked like we were going through people's backyards, but really what we were doing was we were going through our right-of-way where people had built their backyards through our right-of-way. And in some cases there was some issues with posts being driven into the ground, and not a word of a lie, in one case missed the gas line by a couple inches.
I'd say about 3 inches, 3 inches over.
So if that piece of pipe for a clothesline went over 3 inches one way, would have went right through the gas line. It wouldn't have been pretty. Anyway, again, gonna have to work with our public to come up with a solution, and I think we've got a process in place, you know, through our land use bylaw where we can come up with something that works, and allow people the input that we need to get to come up with the right solution. The other issue that we have of planning and development is just compliance with building permits and requirements through safety codes. We, at times, quite frankly, struggle getting people to go through the occupancy permit process and finalizing their development permits so that they can be closed off. You know, in one case, we had somebody who was living in a house say, hey, my garbage. And our answer was, well, there's nobody living there yet. She goes, oh yeah, I am. I have been for a couple months. And, you know, it was a rental place, so, you know, getting that piece done. And we're working on it administratively, but it's gonna mean a bit of a change. Economic development, the key here is our NRED grant. I think if we think back 3 years, we kind of did this in a little bit of a reverse order because our land use bylaw needed attention very quickly. So we did our land use bylaw in 2023, and then in 2024 we did our MDP, finished that off in 2025, and now it's time to, we got those 2 foundational pieces in place. It's time to get on to you know, our economic development master plan and our gap analysis. So if you don't, the best way I would categorize this is, if you don't know where you're going, any path will get you there. What we want to know is we want to figure out what the path is to get us the biggest bang for the buck that we can afford. That's basically what your economic development master plan is going to help you out with, as well as your gap analysis. You know, this is maybe a silly analogy, but from an economic development perspective, we can chase Costco to try and come into Redwater all we want, but we're throwing good money after bad trying to get a Costco to come into Redwater. What's gonna make a difference and what's gonna get us to that next step in our community, right? How do we spend those valuable resources, specifically in this case, time, to chase the right rainbow, basically. Communications, updating our communications policy to clarify our social media use for internal and external purposes, ensuring it aligns with the public participation policy and clearly distinguishes between notification and engagement. One of the things that we ran into in the last little while is just this whole idea that sometimes we notify the public and we get it, the public doesn't like it. But it's a notification, right? That decision's already been made. You know, ship sailed on that one. And our engagement policy and our notification policy really has to differentiate between that, and it doesn't right now. And what it does is it causes our staff time to chase things that, quite frankly, aren't going to make a difference right now. Again, that decision's been made. Here's the information, it's out there, but there are times where we need to engage the public, and we need to make sure that we're clear on when we're doing which, so that we don't frustrate the public either, because if their input isn't going to make a difference at that point in time, make sure that you're not asking for their input, because if that ship's already sailed, nothing's going to frustrate our public more than going, well, you asked me and then you didn't, but the decision was already made. So the next time when you are asking them, because they can make a difference, they're going to go, been there, done that. There was no fruit to the labor. So. Then on, for our senior leadership, we are preparing for upcoming union negotiations as the collective bargaining agreement approaches. So we've had a number of back and forth with our union. I guess I'm sorry to report that we haven't been able to get to step one on this process. We contact, we're in communication, email, phone, etc. Yep, get us something, we'll meet this day, and then we don't get a proposal. So we're a bit frustrated in that, but we will, and to be honest with you, once the election came around and once budget came around, we kind of went, we really don't have time anymore, like right now anyway, so, but in the last couple of weeks, it's hit our radar again, and we're trying to get that piece kicked off. So we do have limited resources, and we are in the middle right now of doing a bit of a time tracking project, a pilot project in our organization to find out how long does it take us to do our day-to-day work, and how much time do we have for projects. One of the things I've said in the past, we do a really good job of tracking our money and where we spend it and what dime went into what bucket. But we're a little bit lax in understanding how long it takes us to do our work. And as a result of that, how much time do we have to spend on projects? And we see that every couple of years where we go, well, we had this project and this project and this project on the books to be, we didn't have time to do this one, we didn't have time to do this one, we didn't have time to do this one. Why not? And again, we have to get a better understanding of not only where we spend our dollars, but where we spend our time. And so we're in the midst of doing that right now. I think the last one to do here is the ongoing work to strengthen our health and safety program and our health and safety culture within the organization. I sound like a broken record on this one, but I've said it once, I've said it 100 times, and I'm going to say it again. The only obligation we have around health and safety is to make sure that each and every one of our staff go home at the end of the day in the same shape or better than we got them. And if we do the right things, we have the right conversations, we'll nail all the, we'll take care of all the legalities, et cetera, et cetera. But our moral obligation is to make sure our we have a safe environment for our employees to work in, and they go home in the same or better shape than we got them. Our strategic alignment around service excellence, again, enhancing that health and safety, improving our communication approaches, building our strong relationships with our local businesses and stakeholders. I think Trina's done a really good job in the last couple of years, really getting out and talking to our businesses, finding out where they're going. Oh, I forgot about that. My bad. There we go.
We got it, but the public can't see it.
I forgot about that. And then refining our program delivery methods, including program tracking. We need to know where we're spending our resources. And again, that is not just dollars, that is our time. And it's a big push from coming out of my office, so that we can make sure that our resources are being directed to where they meet our strategic goals. We might be doing Project X wonderfully, but it's not pushing us forward on our vision or our strategic plan. And if we can take those resources and put it where it moves us towards our strategic plan, those are the ways that we can find the efficiencies in our organization and not do those things that aren't making the difference. Again, the other one is selecting that right approach to address non-compliance issues. The hammer or the stick isn't always the right tool. Sometimes you need a screwdriver, sometimes you need a carrot, and we gotta find that one to be more effective and working with especially our developers on making sure that they know upfront what they have to do, and there's a process that makes sure that things don't fall through the cracks, because that's what we found right now is some of our processes have some cracks in them, and we're not finding out about that again until the ladies moved into a rental and we don't have an occupancy permit and we don't know how they've gotten water. Right? So don't know if I want to go through all the rest. You can read them. The gap analysis is a big one, and of course I think the big one is advocating for the Alberta Municipal Water Wastewater Partnership Program and the Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund. So that grant was applied for on Friday. Now we wait. We probably won't hear anything till March. I will say that the mayor and I had a phone call with Michael Cooper, our MP, just to find out where the SHIF money is after the budget. Kind of got radio silence on that program right now, based on some new priorities from the federal government around the budget. Nobody said that the SHIF program is canceled. Nobody said it's still going forward. So we're just finding out if we still, or if there's a different avenue that we have to take there. Since I don't have any money in the CAO office, I do all this off of the backs of everybody else. The rest is the proposed operating budget, and I'll hand it.
Yeah. All right. Get situated because I'm going to be.
OH&S at its best. Lose an eye.
Great. So the next few slides just summarizes everything that we've talked about. It combines the total proposed operating budget at this time. So just for information, so following this process, administration will go back and we'll review the budget and line by line identify areas that we think we can live without for the next year to present to yourselves at the next meeting, to start making those tough decisions as to where we make some cuts. If there's anything as well that specific line items that you want to drill into, we'd like to see some more information. Direct through to administration, we can provide that information for you as well for the next meeting, ahead of the next meeting, so you have time to review along with the options as well.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, you know, Councillor Brown had asked for some stuff, so if we could just get some clarification, because what we want to do before Thursday is we want to get you out a package of drilling down on some of those things so that you have a chance to review it prior to Thursday, because when we come back on Thursday, we can go through all of those. We'll have that list and say, you know, if we do this, we'll be prepared at that point in time to do a live, you know, addition and subtraction, show you what adding this or subtracting this would mean to the budget and what that means to the overall tax rate. We'll be prepared to do that. I think from administration's point of view, again, get us all your questions that you have. We'll answer them. If not tomorrow, it'll be early Thursday when we get them out to you. We'll try and, like, if there's one thing that we're waiting for, we won't hold the rest of the package up. We'll get you as much as we can. And, you know, if there's something if there's a question that's causing us a bit, you know, more time, we won't hold everything up. But I think from administration's perspective, I think Thursday is, you know, the tough conversation day, if I can call it that, where we go, okay, if we don't do this, what does that mean, right? And we'll have all of our staff here again, be prepared to answer those questions. Because I think at this point in time, it's not just a matter of cutting the dollars. It's if we take $20,000 out of this, what does that mean, right? And not from an operations perspective. I think from a council perspective, it's what does that do to the service level? How does that affect our public and what our public receives? Cutting $200,000 is easy if you don't care about what the effect is on your service level, right? That's, and I don't mean to sound flippant on saying that, but the real trick here is to where do you find those dollars that have minimal or no effect? But I'll be honest with you, I think the best we can hope for is minimal. Have no effect on our service levels at this, you know, where we've been at the last few years. That would be a needle in the haystack from my perspective. But again, understanding that there's going to be some things that council may like, administration may not. That's irrelevant. It's how council's going to have to be comfortable with whatever that last number is. And conversely to that, they're going to have to be comfortable with what that corresponding service level looks like. And we'll do our best to try and answer those questions on Thursday as we go through it.
And there's still a bit of the process, like we've talked a lot about reserve transfers on the operating side of things. And it's really hard to explain it as they're presented here. But when we go through, as part of the capital presentation, we have the reserve transfers in and out. So you can see how we're utilizing those reserves through operating and through capital. And you'll see that there are some reserves specifically that we are pulling from more than we are putting back in. So when we were developing this initial proposed budget, where it was feasible, we did fund some of the increases to operating expenses, like the $20,000 maintenance item that Garnet spoke to, the reservoir inspection. So that was funded out of reserves, but there's still a few, we wanted to still have them in a positive, we still want to be adding to the reserves more than we were drawing from them within reason. There's still one that you'll see that isn't. So that'll be up for discussion as well, along with some professional fees, some of the buckets that we talked about, some of those we identified that we could potentially reduce as well. But again, as we go through the presentation, we'll go through like the 3-year operating, and you'll see that there is a potential to maybe move some projects in the next year, but you'll see the next year comes other things that we'll have to do as well that bring a similar increase that we're seeing this year. So just some difficult conversations to have on Thursday, but just let us know what the direction is.
So, I'll agree, Mr. Mayor, if we could. So we've kind of given you the operating, and Councillor Brown has obviously asked for you know a deeper dive on the professional fees. So that's one of the things that we'll kind of give a breakdown on. And we'll break it down, we'll figure out how we're gonna break that down, whether that be by program or by vendor or by vendor type, I don't know, we'll have to think about how that.
See if I can narrow it down for you guys a little bit
Yeah.
better.
Cause there's a lot of ways that we can look at it, and if you have an idea of what you wanna see, certainly by all means, otherwise we'll give it to you a couple different ways and maybe one of them will hit. I did wanna say one thing on professional fees, so engineering services, if they're not tied to a project, will show up here, but if we tie them to a project, they generally show up in capital.
Right.
And one of the issues there is, and I think this is a good thing, engineering services for a lot of years were excluded from capital grants. You had to do that outside of. And the last couple grants, LGFF being the big one, now allows you to put engineering services onto a grant if it's a project. So if it's a big enough project, and I'll just use this as a master servicing master plan, right, for all of your system, that would probably be big enough that they would allow that to be a project. But you wouldn't be able to do just the engineering fees for, let's say, the lift at the at Pembina Place, because the engineering fees would only be 20,000, and there's a 10% threshold for it to be a project. So you would be able to do the engineering services if it was the engineering services and the lift together, because then you hit that 10%.
More where I'm coming from is, so usually engineering services outside of the project stuff is either an emergent issue or it's a consulting fee where we don't have expertise.
Yep.
So for me, when we look at this stuff, if it's something where we don't have the expertise, is it cheaper for us to get the expertise ourselves, like train it into our folks, versus going back to engineering every time? And if it's an emergent issue, same thing, right? How do we build into our systems so it doesn't become an emergent issue time after time, right?
So we'll be able to, I think we'll be able to dig.
Yeah, I think you guys are
with
kind
that
of getting
kind of
the gist.
clarification, we'll be able to
absolutely.
give you a pretty good dive at it.
Allegra, there's an increase in water and a decrease in sewer.
Yeah.
I thought they were tied hand to hand
Increase in water, sorry.
in revenue. We're bringing in $97,000 more, and yet we're losing $24,000 out of sewer.
So because we added the variable cost to water. So we made no changes to sewer, so the sewer is tied to water consumption. So when we were going over the utility, the comparisons, those like terrible spreadsheets year over year, in order for water to not be at a loss, we had to increase the variable cost. So now water is at more of a profit, but we made no changes to sewer because we increased sewer from 45 to 75 in the previous year.
I do remember you saying that now. Okay.
But that's a really great question, thank you.
So that means our sewer recovery rate won't be at 75% anymore, correct?
Well, we're still doing, like, sewer is still at 75% of water consumption. We made no changes to that. But when we went through, sewer wasn't one that we touched on because we were still at a recovery position or close to recovery when compared to amortization.
The recovery on sewer is based on consumption, not on cost. So we increase the cost of water, but we still have the same consumption rate
Yeah.
based on that. Okay.
And
That
so
makes sense.
leaving it at 75%, it gives us a bit more room if we do need to go up to 100%. And we did see a couple members of our cohort group are at 100%, but because as we were preparing this, we were trying to balance out increasing utility fees and increasing taxation where it made the most sense, where it was the most equitable and fair. So increasing the proposed increase for the Fortis franchise fee and the water variable rate, just wanted to leave sewer as is until something triggered us in having to increase that through the costing.
And I think that water variable rate was something we looked at the very beginning when we did our revolving plan for, we included that for 3 years. I think the first year this was nothing, the second year was last year, and then again this year for this tax year.
Yes, oh, the utility infrastructure reinvestment rider. That was the one.
That's what, yes.
Yeah, so it was at 0, then 0.2, and then 0.4 per cubic meter, but we haven't, that was a rate that we didn't touch this year.
Yeah.
We're trying to balance out our increases year over year.
Go ahead.
Right, and then this is just to bookend the presentation with the proposed increase, 26 compared to 25. So right now we're at 7.41%. So how we'll present the changes is it'll be in a dollar amount and then a percentage of, sorry?
We're lower than that because you didn't take the COLA increase for council off yet.
Yes, you are absolutely correct. A very small margin.
I might be jumping it, never mind, I'll wait till later, I'll look at the capital budget first.
Yeah, oh, we got 3 more presentations.
I just have a question, and I think regarding paving, so.
Do you want to bring up the next one on the agenda?
Capitaldirect.ca.
Connie, if you go back here.
You got my pretty fire truck. Pretty fire truck. No.
Capital budget and long-term capital plan. There you go. And then if you.
Oh, somebody stole it, we think it. Yep. Give you $500. When you transfer to here.
You can actually do that.
I can't say that, I haven't got the keys anymore. Turn them in because I need.
All right, so the 2026 capital budget and long-term capital plans. So just a refresher or some new information perhaps. So this is a legislative requirement per the MGA. So we have to present the operating capital budgets. So we have to have at minimum a 3-year financial plan and a 5-year capital plan. So we're going over the 5-year capital here as well. So multi-year plans do not include the year in which they are prepared. So our plan will be from 27, 28, 29. And then council must review them annually as we are doing right now. So now, a lesson on tangible capital assets. So TCAs, tangible capital assets, they don't have, they're non-financial assets having physical substance that are acquired, constructed, or developed and are held for use in production or supply of goods and services to others for administrative purposes or for the development, construction, maintenance, or repair of other tangible assets. So they have useful economic lives extending beyond the accounting period, so beyond the fiscal year, the calendar year, and are to be used on a continuing basis and are not for resale in the ordinary course of operations, because that would be inventory. So beneficial ownership and control rest with the town, so we own these assets. So it doesn't include things such as inventories, capital grants, intangible assets, with the exception of software. So Diamond, the Diamond upgrade will be a capital asset. Feasibility studies, business cases, management reviews, and then assets below the threshold. The threshold is outlined in our policy, which is $5,000. So that kind of makes it tricky when we're we have some interesting debates about operations versus capital when it comes to this, and whether this is repairs and maintenance or if it extends the useful life of the asset. So we've taken this into consideration as we've prepared our operating versus capital budgets. So everything you're seeing here will be capital in nature as per policy. So just some capital in the municipal context. So we have our essential core capital, so our roads, water lines, sewers and reservoirs, service capital, so fire trucks, graders, fleet, the support capital, so software, hardware like our servers, furniture, our admin buildings, and social capital, so our rec facilities that come into place, cultural facilities. Nice picture of our capital assets. So there's just some inputs into how we develop the capital budget. So we look at environmental sustainability, the infrastructure master plans, and our condition assessments, our MGA and legislative requirements, our community wants and needs, our strategic planning, our TCA principles, and our asset management. So we develop a list of priorities and have to make some decisions. We funnel those into a long-term capital plan, and then we determine what we're going to take on for the next year in our capital budget. So just some factors for evaluation. We're looking at health and safety concerns. Of course, legal obligations and mandates is really important. Provincial or federal government legislation, grants policy, the economic, environmental, or social value to our community or our region, operational benefits to our municipality, specific needs or demands for new or improved services or cost savings, and investment returns, so saving on maintenance, new assessment. Garnet really went into detail with that with his presentation last week. So capacity to leverage other resources, so matching funds. Big one here is with Sturgeon County with the rec agreement. Project feasibility, so cost, time frames, management capacity, staff capacity is a big one. Strategic importance in politics, non-weighted criteria. So we have to balance community expectations with our resource availability. So we constantly have higher demands for levels of service, new services, and newer facilities. But we have to balance our taxation year over year, our fees and charges changes. We'll go over the fees and charges presentation later on, hopefully this evening. Again, balancing out our utility rates, any increases that are proposed there. Constantly changing grants, our capacity for debt, and our balances in our reserve accounts, and the political environment. Okay, so I apologize. This is the third year. I don't know how to make this look so tiny on the screen. Maybe if we had a smaller capital budget. So right now it is at $16,482,360. So a significant portion of that, $13.5 million, is due to the wastewater system upgrade. So that's the CHIF. I always get these acronyms wrong when I say them out loud. Prove that our capital budget is consistent as the prior 3 years. So the only thing that administration has from this list that I'll speak to is the diamond upgrade assessment. So this is just to determine what the path forward looks like for our end-of-life data management system. So we have $50,000 in there. And the rest of this is Mr. Davison, which I will have it.
Thanks, Allegra. All right.
She's at a rest, look out.
So, as we know, that's a sizable number, 16 mil, 16.5 technically. As we do know, we cut out a 12 mil thereabouts in relation to the lift station upgrade that Allegra was referring to, 13.5 mil, sorry, my apologies. But at the end of the day, there's a lot that goes into this. What I really want to talk about, just to start us off here, is I'm going to walk over the TV and I'm going to do a little bit of pointing here. Not funded. Everything else that you see here either falls under a grant and has no impact on taxation. That's the first point I just want to start out with. So everything you see on this board minus the $300,000 is funded. Sorry, boss, go ahead.
Except for the debt. The debt has no has no impact in 2026, but it will have an impact in 2027.
If,
Sorry, go ahead.
that deserves a little more clarification for Councillor Smith and Brown.
Yeah, okay,
And
so.
it's based on when we get the money to do our water project.
So, just the technicalities of this is, when you borrow money from, the provincial government through their
bank,
their bank, well, they do it through bonds, but whatever. Your first payment isn't due until 6 months following, your draw. So, what we've done with this program is we've deferred our payments for, till 2027, because we make sure that we don't take our draw on the funding until after July 1st. So even though we'll do the bylaw and we'll do all the legalities for the borrowing bylaw, we'll do that early. We hold off as long as we can after July, so that we delay that payment into 2027. So that's why there's no budget impact in 2026, but there will be a budget impact in 2027 when we have to start making payments.
Okay, so I'll rephrase that. Minus the 500 and the 300, nothing else has an impact on taxation. So everything that you see, everything I'm going to talk about shortly, is already funded through grants or a different program, as you'll see under the lines here. So I'll just talk about the second one there, security camera system improvements at the fire hall. I spoke to a lot of these through the capital initiatives, so I'll just glaze over the ones that I've already spoken to a little bit. We know we had some break-ins at the fire hall. We continue to have some nuisance in the area, so we want to make sure we cut off all avenues there for people to get into the building, in particular door breaks, window breaks, proximity type stuff on top of the cameras that we just recently installed. Butt fusion machine on the gas system at 16K. Again, this is to allow us to join our PE pipes, and it's important that we're able to do this in-house. Saves us a little bit of money, saves us mob and demob, rental, that sort of thing. So it's a good investment for us for future pieces. When we talk about third parties for some of the work we do, these are the ways we're trying to cut them down, is to bring them in-house, reduce some of this cost. Obviously, to do that, it has an upfront cost. Our return on investment is efficiency and reductions in that in the future. We don't work like a typical ROI would be calculated. It's a little different.
Trains up some of our staff too, it gives them new skills and things like that.
Absolutely. I mean, anything we can do. Sorry, Rob.
You're saying they're already trained?
Yep.
We're
We're just adding to what they already have. These are little pieces that we can add to what they have. We're doing it across the board. We're really trying to do this in every department we possibly can. So just another piece of that puzzle. In relation to gas line replacements at 65th Street utility right-of-way over on the west end of town, we're looking at a section, and you'll see it's in there at $140,000 right now. We are trialing a cooperative purchasing version for this as well, where we're going to go out to tender in a different way to what we have, still meeting the MGA requirements, which is fantastic. Gas regulator station upgrades, as I alluded to when I was talking about capital initiatives, we do have some regulating stations that are overdue for some work, and stuff that we need to do in order to keep us in regulatory compliance and make sure we pass our audits. Also something that is in our QMP and our SLMS that is important that we stay on top of, very important that we stay on top of. 47th Ave, main rehabilitation, as we've spoken to this one, that is our borrowing, and at the end of the day, that is a sewer line on the south side of town that we know is in poor condition and has some issues. We have already commenced some pre-work on this. I do want to speak to that a little bit. We do come in and do pre-work on all our projects. We do that to try and save ourselves money in the long run because we want to know where we stand. It can easily come around and bite you if you don't do that little bit of pre-work that exposes some of the things that our unknowns, basically.
I've seen a van, Camtech, I think.
Cam,
is that what they're doing right now?
Camtrack, yeah. They're cameraing some of the connections, cameraing the line, we're getting a good look at it.
I can show you a video right now.
I've seen lots of them, trust me. It's an interesting thing. I mean, we know there's a lot of old infrastructure in the ground here. We know there's a lot of old houses with very old lines, service lines that are connecting to our old infrastructure. And what
Camera right at as it dropped into our main sewer there, and you can see the encroachment of the seam. Like, it's probably a third enclosed in off on this one.
Yeah, and it's definitely a chat that we'll have in workshop times and things along those lines, because we're going to bring out some footage and show you what we're looking at in a lot of this stuff. You know, it's interesting because we get to this stuff, and the camera, as we mentioned, that we bought last year, has allowed us to see some of these things, and it's a real eye opener. I will say that much. Onto portable shoring for infrastructure. It's in there at 28K. So this isn't your stock standard portable shoring. This is a circular version of portable shoring. It's stackable. It has the ability to move out. It has the ability to come up. It has the ability to be low. If we put box shoring in there, we're not always able to get the right access that we require. This saves us in many different ways. Chris, you want to elaborate a little bit, mate?
Yeah, it has a ladder on it, which is really nice. It's small in size, so if we're doing water valves throughout town, choosing our spots, we're not digging a big area like we would with our box shoring. It's also really good for our gas digs. Those were a lot shallower, but it's also, you know, protecting us. We can make it smaller for those. So it's utilitarian across like all of our utilities. The nice thing about this too, we can load it on our flatbed truck. It's all encased. It has its own storage rack. Everything's, you know, put it on there and then you go, right? So it's easy to haul. It's safe to haul, and it's we can pick the pieces up and assemble them. We don't need equipment to do it. We can just do it on site, lower it in with a hydrovac truck, and we're good to go.
So it has a lot more portability. It makes a lot of sense. One thing I want to mention is that Chris alluded to there is when we're doing gas lines, as we know, gas lines are generally shallow. The issue is to be correct in relation to OHS, and as we know, there's a lot of them floating around these days. When you bend over, if your head goes below that level of dirt, technically you should have shoring. So it's important that we have the correct shoring and the correct things. OHS is not going anywhere. It's getting heavier and heavier, and at the end of the day, we want to make sure we stay ahead of it, and also stay in compliance. And I can't put it any better than the boss did earlier. We want people to come to work and go home in the same state. So this is not only a lot more convenient, but it allows us to do a lot more things with that shoring.
So what do we have right now?
We rent it because we don't have one that'll pass an inspection.
And this is safer too. It's way more strong. You can be bigger, and you don't, even if it falls in, this box stuff, it can actually fold in the middle on you, and still you're in trouble. Whereas this will not fold in the middle.
No, and this is a great system. I'd be happy to share a brochure with anyone who wants to take a look at it. It really is a great system, and it's something. Keep in mind, this is something that not only will we look after, but we'll have for a long time after I'm gone. So it's not a fly-by-night piece of equipment. So I'll move on to the next line, being the accessibility lift at Pembina Place. It's in there at 85K. Again, this is another one of those. It's great to have. Something to think about, but it's in the piece here. We did do the pre-engineering for it, and you know, at the end of the day, we do know that there's a few people that like to come and watch the youngies play hockey, and the ability to get them up into the stands would be fantastic. A little bit of a feather in the cap there. So, but it does come with, as Mr. Mayor did mention earlier, it does come with follow-on costs, which is a DERSA, Alberta elevating lifting devices. Something. They're really important, and but they do come to your facility and they do inspect your equipment. They also have regulation on how often it's serviced. There's a whole bunch of pieces that follow on with that. Moving on to the ice edger at Pembina Place. So I don't know if anyone's ever been in there when we're edging the ice. You probably need a gas mask.
Earplugs for sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's loud. So we have an ice version of an ice edger right now, being an internal combustion engine, and at the end of the day, it makes a racket, and it does receive tune-ups. It's old, it smokes, it can get a little bit smoky in there. So we make sure we're pretty careful using that machine, and we certainly turn all the HVAC up full blast to get it out of the building to prevent any oxygen issues. But what we're proposing to replace it with at 9,000 is an electric version, and get something that's quiet, doesn't have any fumes, and keeps us well within our bounds given the age of the arena. Moving on to the pump guide bars at the lift station. So what this basically is, as I alluded to in the capital initiatives piece, is it's a set of bars that allow us to lift and lower the pumps down there, just to make life a lot easier for our guys. We don't have to have we probably have to have machinery on site, but it's a whole lot easier than how it comes up otherwise. Moving on to confined space rescue equipment, $6,000. The big news here is we don't have any, and we really do need to have some.
8,500, sorry.
8,500, sorry, my bad.
Down one line.
The glasses, the ones that you put on your face. So at 8,500, the bad news is we don't have it. We really do need it. We do have guys requiring to go down into cans every now and then, and without it, we're putting ourselves at risk. As they know at the moment, they're not allowed to go in them. We really do need to go in them. So it would make a big difference. Basically, it's a confined space rescue equipment consisting of your tripod, your winch, harnesses, all the stuff you're supposed to have when you go down into these areas, which is why there is a no-go on going into cans. Moving on to the next one, wastewater system upgrade. We alluded to this. I will not beat a dead horse on this one. That is our CHIF and MWOP grant. Lagoon upgrade under sewer.
I just want to make one note on that. So that is based on, those numbers are based on the SHIF grant that we applied for back in March. It's not based on the updated numbers based on the AMWOP grant that we just submitted on Friday.
Lagoon upgrade in the sewer system there, and it is on for $40K. Chris, do you want to tell us about that one?
Yeah, we have, so our lagoon system, our aeration is getting a little bit tired. We have some issues with corrosion. Steel pipe and sewer they're not a happy marriage there, so it's going to help us with that and kind of move forward in improving our quality of effluent. Our effluent's at a good quality right now, but it's going to put us in a better position moving forward, so we're not, we're in a marathon rather than a race, you know.
100%. How old's our aeration system, mate?
It'd be the same age as the facility. I believe it was 95 to 97.
We talk about useful life, asset life cycle. We're talking about an old asset, 95. If you go to most aeration lagoons, what you'll see in winter, it's a great time to look at them is in winter, and what you'll see in winter is usually big mounds, big ice mounds, because you get that spit of air coming up and it freezes and it creates those big ice what I'd call termite mounds. Ours are about that high. And as
Floor.
yeah, no, from the table.
Okay, I was just wondering from the table to the floor.
So it's at the end of the day, we are not getting the aeration that we require. The better aeration we get, the more water movement we get, and when we get that, we get better. The technical term, what do we call it, Chris? Right.
BOD, CBOD.
Yeah,
your TSS.
I'm not even going to suspended solids, all that sort of good stuff.
Again, we have our licensing coming up.
Correct. And we have our licensing coming up. So we know we have some issues on the horizon, given that once we put our licensing in, we're going to go with a whole bunch of water testing. But they're still going to look at our system and probably make a whole bunch of recommendations. This is us trying to get ahead of those recommendations, but also knowing that some of these pieces have well outlived their life cycle. And it's time that we made some upgrades to enable our system to cope better. If we go and do upgrades and we don't do those, we're cutting off our nose to spite our face, so to speak. Moving on to the airs and blowers, and again, this is the same sort of situation at 27K. Do you want to explain the airs and blowers to us?
Yeah, so these blowers, again, same age as the facility, 95 to 97. This cost here is for replacement. Obviously, we have to get it sent in. see what they can do. Usually the refurbishment ends up costing close to a replacement. I have since found out. It's takes quite a work to refurbish one of those, just with the tolerances. So,
Yep.
But replaces some old infrastructure with some new infrastructure that'll last us hopefully another 30 years. So.
Absolutely. I have a lot of stories that I won't bring up in a public forum, but suffice to say, we have once done a replacement on one of these. When we talk about third party and why we utilize them and how we utilize them, at one point we replaced an airs and blower and we replaced it incorrectly and it wrecked it.
It was a faulty blower. Just
tolerances weren't there. There was a number of issues, but at 27K, we should be doing the right things. There's some things we can take a chance on and do ourselves. There's some things we absolutely should not. So, is what I want to get to on those pieces. Sanitary manhole replacements in at 50K. As we know, these are spot repairs I alluded to in the capital initiatives. We do have some faulty areas in the town that we would like to fix up. Will we get them all done for 50K? We will not, but we will try and get as many as we can, depending on what the price comes out at.
Is that lowering and raising situation? Is that what you're looking at? Is like, I know some of them are fairly high in town, you know, caused that bump, and some are a little lower.
Yeah, it's more to deal with failures, so to speak.
Also, further down the hole.
Connection.
Yeah. Yeah, so as I alluded to when we did 52nd Ave, we took a look at the sanitary line when we did 52nd Ave because it makes sense if we're in there, let's have a look at everything to make sure we cover our bases. We had a separated connection, and which I had discussed earlier. Some of these are the same problem. One of them in particular, actually I won't talk about it right now, unless you would like me to, boss.
He doesn't even know where
You started, so you may as well finish.
One of them in town, we have a backflow. So instead of the effluent flowing one way, it flows the other way to a dead end. So what then occurs is it backs up, and eventually when it backs up, someone gets a backup. So we know there's some existing issues. This money is to solve a couple of those. When it was installed, whether it's ground movement, whatever the case may be, I'm not 100% sure. But once we open it up and get a look at it, we'll pretty quickly find out whether it was an install issue or whether it was ground movement or something along those lines. So, yeah. Okay, moving on to bridge rehab. This is our carry forward, as we know. There are some signs up. We have much bigger, better signs coming on Thursday to put on 638 and at the end of the range road. These guys kind of rolled in and oof, we're here. And we went, okay, now we got to get this moving. So at the end of the day, sometimes projects get squeezed, sometimes they extend, but at the end of the day, we'll have signage up here Thursday, and that is also moving. We also got a report about one calls, which we confirmed were done. There were some statements made that there were some one calls not done by a local group, being a company in town, and we've confirmed they were done. So.
There's just an aside, one of those detour signs when you're coming up to that street that goes up there, it says detour and it points up that street.
Yeah, so there's a detour, but the detour is down there. Yeah, we've got the signage coming to fix that.
It's a little confusing when you're driving up detour. I know that road's closed.
Yeah, and we're not happy with the size of it. We're not happy with a couple of little issues there, which is why we've got the big stuff coming that we promised we would have coming. Okay, so moving on, intersection highway upgrade. Boss, you have spoken about this. Do you want to...
Yeah, I guess the long story is pretty short right now. Yeah, so we're just doing the final, making sure that those numbers were correct. We'll be contacting Transportation Economic Corridors on that project here, if not tomorrow, for sure on Thursday. Just to say, it looks like that number didn't come in anywhere close to 350. It's closer to, well, right now the number is 925. That's the low number, with a high number at 1.2 million and the total of 5 bids. So it wasn't a single, wasn't an issue where there was only one bidder. And I believe that even one of the companies is using one of the other companies as a sub. So, but it's not feasible at this point in time.
Just next summer construction, not winter construction?
So the way we did the tender was we tendered it for a 2026 construction season. So what we tried to do was give whoever was going to bid on it flexibility to fit it in, because it's a fairly small project, so they could fit it in, you know, if they were in the area, or if they got a 2 or 3 week, break, or however they wanted to fit it in. It just had to have a start and a stop date, so we didn't want it going, of course, all summer, where, they have the intersection ripped up for the whole summer, but they could schedule it as required. We didn't have any scheduling, and it still came in exorbitantly high. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and all we could say on that is sometimes we're completely and utterly at the mercy of contractors. That's the nature of the business we're in. When it comes to some of the projects that need to get done, we don't have the manpower, the time, the availability, any number of things you can think of. But at the end of the day, when you're on big projects like this, we're a little bit at the mercy of what people want to quote us.
I think there's a couple, like on projects like this, there's a couple things that are going on in the market right now in Alberta, and it involves the construction industry, and not just roads, but construction in general. We're at Alberta Munis, and the province is pounding $6.8 billion into schools over the next 3 years. It all takes equipment, it all takes labor, it all takes that same type of skill set. We also have areas of our province that are expanding at pretty phenomenal rates. We all went through Airdrie, I think, driving to Calgary. That's a good example, and there's a lot of areas around Edmonton that are doing the same thing. And then you add to that the provincial government contracts. Everybody wants roads paved and roads twinned, and so those dollars are going into the market. And the supply, what our engineers are telling us is the supply hasn't kept up with the demand. After the downturn, companies haven't ramped up to the same degree that they have in the past, and that's going to take a while to do. Plus, the cost of ramping up with tariffs on equipment, et cetera, is not cheap. So, I think these kinds of prices are in store for us for the next 2 to 3 years as a minimum before they kind of level off and stabilize.
I think the Premier told us in her address that Tech had 168 projects on the books. That's for this year. So when you're talking roads and Tech is involved with every one of those, it's going to drive the price up. It's going to be crazy.
And at the end of the day, let's call a spade a spade. It doesn't matter whether we're doing roads, gas, water, cement, sidewalks. It doesn't matter. We are not City of Edmonton. We just do not have that buying power and that leverage that some other places have. And that's one of the big cards on the table, is that really at the end of the day, when you're working for a really large company, a multinational, whatever you'd like to use as your example, you have leverage, because you might have $300 million worth of projects, or maybe it's $2 billion worth of projects ongoing. People want on those projects. When you're the smaller player in the game, sometimes it's here's our price, take it or leave it. You know what I mean? And we have to, and unfortunately that's the nature of business. It really is. And we have to be aware of that. Moving on to soil conditioner. So you saw this rolling around this year. At the end of the day, when we talk about service levels, and this is conversations we're going to have throughout workshops throughout the year, service levels matter. They matter to our residents, and as I know they matter to council, they certainly matter to us. And they all have a roll-on effect. People want their back alleys done. We don't have a grader that's capable of going down the back alley and doing a back alley, because it's, quite frankly, too big. Our alternative is to run a soil conditioner, as you know, which is otherwise known as a Harley rake if you've been around the industry for a while, with carbide teeth. They turn over your gravel. You can come over afterwards with a packer if you feel like it, but they do a pretty good job. And it's a very good in-between piece for us at a very low cost. as opposed to selling off our grader and trying to buy a smaller one, for example. Moving on to the next one is a V-plow for our toolcat. You'll see our toolcat, I'm sure you've seen it out already, with the sweeper on the front. The sweeper copes with snow loads pretty well to a point. And then you actually, what winds up happening is your sweeper gets what you'd call cased in. So the snow on the edges gets higher than the sweeper's capable of moving, and you wind up causing a ridge on the edge. We need that plow to be able to break those ridges out and move them out a little bit further and clear them. The V on the plow allows us to get on all our sidewalks that are not the same width. Our sidewalks are not uniform in width, so our one piece does not fit all, which is, you know, if they're all 3 foot wide, we'd buy a 3 foot blade and we'd tilt it and off we'd go, but they're not. So, RPM backhoe mounted blower. So we've spoken about this. I alluded to it, told you all I was going to talk about this a little bit more. So here we go. Our current blower is what you would call an agricultural grade, technically. It generally isn't designed to do the sort of work that we're asking it to do. To be really honest, when you buy a piece of equipment and you modify it within the first couple of weeks, it probably isn't the right piece of equipment, but that is the case. The piece we want to talk about here is getting a bigger blower, a blower that fits on the front of our backhoe, which is a much larger piece of equipment with an increase in horsepower, and it allows that piece of equipment the flexibility for the other piece of equipment to be used as an alternate or a backup, which would be in a rare case if we had a breakdown or something along those lines. This is a self-contained blower, has its own engine, has its own double blade tines, 2 sets of tines, much larger, will cut through a lot more of what it needs to cut through, and in general at a much greater rate. So what you would gain on this is obviously efficiencies, less equipment downtime. Cliff, how many times have we repaired that piece of equipment?
A couple times a year, I'd say.
So a couple times every season, that piece of equipment is down. And it's down because the throat, the rotating piece on the chute, cracks. Add to that, it's not, the name of the coating is escaping me right now, but it doesn't have the case hardened coating that a lot of pieces of equipment use, especially on skids and on anything that's contacting the asphalt surface. It will chew them up. And you'd be surprised how much a snowblower will disappear in a season. Obviously they have blades, cutting edges that you take off and put on, but if roads have a camper and you don't adjust it for that, it will eat one side of your snowblower out, and it'll chew it right out. So we're proposing that we buy a larger, more industrial, commercial version of what we have, and something that's more capable of handling what we're asking it to handle.
I think you asking for it all this year?
I am. 2026 technically, but yeah. I would like to get it in and running. The biggest issue I have is our snowblower has become, you know, it's a fantastic idea. Every town should have a snowblower. They're fantastic. It increases your efficiency tenfold. What used to take us, what was our clearing time before that blow in?
I would say upwards of 10 days to get everything done, and now
What's our quickest now?
I'd say 5 days for everything, start to finish. And
I've seen it done in 4.
Yeah.
So we're 60% down in efficiency by using that blower. It's a very integral piece of equipment. It just makes life so much easier. A lot of grading mounts up on your curbs, pushes it up on your curbs. The grader tags your curbs. You have a lot of secondary damage in running a grader around all the time. Whether it be you catching manholes and flipping rings off, you're obviously grading along the surface of the road. You're catching the edges of the gutters. Then you're mounting all the snow load onto the edges of the gutters. You're plowing in your fire hydrants. I could talk about this for days, honestly. But at the end of the day, the blower is a much more efficient piece of equipment and holds that purpose a lot better. Now, is there options? Absolutely. Have I found one? Not yet. This was the simplest piece. We don't have a loader. So most of these, if anyone's not aware, would sit on the front of a loader. That's generally speaking what most industrial snowblowers go on the front of. If you look at any tractors, especially agricultural versions, they're usually on the back, and we don't want our guys backing down the road. That would not be a good look for us. But at the end of the day, are there other options out there? I could probably do a lot more surfing than I have, but this was the one we could find. And trust me, there's options if you want to pay for them out of the States and pay US dollars and those sorts of things. They're definitely there's other things, but at the end of the day, this is the best solution we could come up with. On to 44th Street overlay at 115,000. Sorry, I should mention that the RPM backhoe mounted blower is at 215K. It is not a light touch. To give you an idea of what that means, our current agricultural version cost us 12K if I remember correctly. I can confirm that, but I'm 99% sure that was the cost. So I mean, it is a big jump. It is a bigger piece of machinery.
Garnet, is that with a new unit?
That's with a new unit, yeah.
Would there be any savings to getting the second-hand one? I mean, a new blower.
Yeah.
The second-hand tractor, we'll say, or loader.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely options out there. Sorry, go ahead, boss.
The blower will go on our existing backhoe.
Well, this is just strictly for the blower.
This is just strictly.
Strictly the blower.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and so just to give you an idea, the reason we had to go with a blower that has its own engine is because when you go with a larger blower, they're usually on loaders, and the hydraulics can handle that. We haven't got a unit big enough to handle those hydraulics.
So if we go to a blower that doesn't have its own engine, we'd probably reduce the cost of the blower slightly, not a ton, but then you need a loader. And a small loader for that's gonna be another, what we figure, $275.
Yeah, they don't come cheap. Yeah. No yellow steel at the moment comes cheap, that's for sure. Yeah, it's a devil's advocate, right? So you can shoot for a loader. I mean, we've thrown up a whole bunch of options. We've thought about selling off the grader and trying to go with a smaller grader and a small loader. We've definitely looked at a lot of different versions. There's also a Willys snowblower version that I've seen active in some other municipalities. So I mean, there's definitely some pieces out there, and in the next week.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I just want to bring up one thing that Garnet and I have talked about. It's not in our current purchasing policy, but I think Mr. Smith brings up kind of the point. So one of the things that's not in our purchasing policy right now is the ability to buy things at auction, et cetera. And you know, we want to have a discussion with council very early in the new year about, you know, what's council's comfort level of, you know, and not for everything, but on certain things where we would come to council and say, look, maybe, you know, there's an equipment auction somewhere and we go, you know, instead of 215, we think we can probably pick one up for 160. Now, I'm not saying we have that, back the bus up. We haven't looked at that option for this particular one. But in our purchasing policy, we're gonna talk to council about the ability for council to say, yeah, on this one, we're gonna give Mr. Davidson, you know, the ability to go up to and buy a secondhand unit for a maximum of X. And you know, if Garnet goes, or Ken goes to an auction and goes, you know, we can bid on that. Now, there's some risk in that, obviously, as we're all aware, but, you know, again, I think there's some abilities to do that, but within the trade agreements, we have to spell that out in in our policy about how we do that, because generally on things like this, you gotta get your 3 quotes, you gotta do this and that. When you buy at auction or you buy secondhand, you don't always have that ability to get that quoting done. So that'll be something that we wanna talk to council about, early in the new year, about what our purchasing policy looks like as far as our ability to do that.
Thanks, boss. Okay, moving on.
Gordon?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
No problem. You started off your presentation by telling us that everything except that little bit was non-tax. It was granted. But there is the ability, if you move something out of the grant column because you choose not to do that, that you can then offset some of the reserves that are being planned by moving something into that grant column. Is that correct? Or are there really bad?
I'll let Allegra speak to that one.
So there are some stipulations there. It depends on the grant and the dollar amount, because every grant has different rules as to what they will cover. Like in a couple slides, I go over differences with LGFF and CCBF. LGFF, big one here is the threshold is 10% of the total allocation, so that's why we picked the bigger projects there. So,
and that's
yes.
why I was asking. I just wanted to understand that.
Absolutely, and we're open to answering absolutely any questions. Okay, moving on to 44th Street overlay. As we know, if you've seen 44th Street, as I alluded to earlier, it's a little bit of a checkerboard. It certainly needs a little bit of work. We were originally, and Mr. Mayor, this might have been the question you were going to ask me in reference to overlays, but originally we were going to do 52nd Street, 52nd Ave, sorry. But given it's only been finished this year, it might be easier for us to leave it a year and see what happens, make sure there's no settling even though it was pushed. We want to make sure there's no settling, given the keyhole cuts that were made are actually pretty good. We are going to crack seal the edges of the keyhole cuts this year just to make sure they're sealed up. When I say this year, I mean 2026. And so at the end of the day, we'd like to get another street done in that time. And that'll allow us to get onto 44th Street and clean up one of the major entrances and exits to the town that gets a lot of use, especially around the industrial park. So, moving on to sidewalk replacements. As you know, this is in our budget year over year. It's at the moment it's under CCBF for $130,000, and as I alluded to earlier, concrete is not getting any cheaper, just like anything else. And so what, as everyone's aware, actually maybe not everyone is aware, we do inspect the streets, sidewalks every year. We do have tolerances written in our policies, and they're the tolerances we look for when we go around. Do we get every one of them every year? Not likely, but it would cost a lot more than $130K to do that. But what I will say is we have covered a lot of ground in town, and we've, as we alluded to earlier, we've also included grinding, which in effect reduces a lot of that stressor on financial stressor on the town. So it's a good alternative, and that's what we want to continue doing. Do you want me to talk about pavers?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Wayne.
Quick aside there, I know we have $130,000 to do replacement or repairs or whatever,
Yeah.
but what do we have for, like, there's a couple places that don't have sidewalks in their area, and that, are we have anything for that at this time?
We don't have anything planned for an area that doesn't have a sidewalk, but we can certainly. There's nothing saying that we can't take that $130K and turn it into a sidewalk. It's just whether or not you want to take that liability and change that. But the idea behind that is we could put a project in to do areas that don't have sidewalks if council so wishes.
I was just wondering if we're starting to catch up with this $130,000, or is it we're going through it no problem? And
Generally speaking,
a lot more to do.
We get through it pretty quick.
Yeah.
Downside to Canada is ground shifts, and when the ground shifts are cracked concrete, especially if it's a walk that's done with just putting your crack marks in rather than separate flagstone. So your separate flagstone will shift a lot more. But
And as Mr. Davidson's going to allude to right away, we know we have some areas that are paving stone right now that need to be addressed as well, right? that's
Yeah,
becoming I wouldn't say a bigger issue, but as big an issue as our concrete in some areas. And, I would point to the sidewalk just to the west of us here, on the other side of the library, on the street following.
130 wouldn't go as far as new construction either.
Yeah, I mean, really, at the end of the day, pavers are beautiful. Don't get me wrong. Pavers are beautiful. So stamped concrete. You know, I just want to put that out there. But at the end of the day, if you go just across, as the boss was mentioning, to the west there, and you want to ride a scooter, that's a really good spot to do it. Because you can jump about 6 or 7 spots along there, especially with those big elms pushing up, pushing roots out, and all those pavers heaving. And to be honest, it wouldn't matter if it's concrete or pavers there, because those roots will just lift anything. But in general, what we see is people's salt that they throw down really tends to have a huge effect on those paving stones. It breaks them up, it busts them. We're constantly replacing stones. If there's one thing we are not good at, and we certainly are not experts at, what is it, Cliff? Paving.
Replacing pavers.
Yeah. we're not pavers by any means. You know.
One thing I think you guys start looking at being careful with, I know you guys provide sand and those sand boxes and stuff. That stuff is brutal on concrete.
So yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, but the actual road mix salt will certainly decay those quicker than anything else will. The reason
is concrete, everything. It just
absolutely, it will spoil your concrete, do all sorts of stuff to it. So the reason we put the gate up at Public Works so people couldn't get into our salt and sand shed is because people love to come out there with their trucks, trailers, whatever they've got, wheelbarrows, and they like to take some road salt, that pink stuff, and it is nasty. That stuff is a lot hotter than what you will get out of Home Hardware or anywhere else in a bag. And when you start spreading that on paving stones, cement, just about anywhere you put it, it's corrosive. So
what do we put in the boxes for the public at like Pembina? What's in there?
Right now, this year, it's just straight. It is pickled sand, like it was pickled in a brine there, but there's none of that pink salt added to the stuff that's currently out there. There was times last year where there was mixed, like the pink salt was mixed.
About 3 years ago when
it was identified and method changed.
It also clumps up and like it'll solidify in those yellow boxes too, so it's kind of a pain. But
yeah, it was picked up pretty quick, and but at the end of the day, it's the brine that we put in there is a lot lesser version. So moving on, storm drainage catch basin replacement. Chris, fill us in, mate.
Yeah, we have some that have been touched over the years by equipment, some that have just been crumbling away. So, as in coordination with Cliff's projects, there we're gonna repair a couple of those and get some new infrastructure in, so a little bit safer and not a big hole.
Yeah, and so I talk a lot, so I like to defer to my guys because it's good for them to get this experience and talk to council, and they have some really good input into a lot of this stuff, which is why I'm going to ask. Sorry, I'll move on to hydrant replacement. I won't be able to beat a dead horse there at 50K. We know we've got some hydrant replacements to do, and we're on that. Eventually, we want to get to a 0 on that. Moving on, we'll go to Pembina Place electronic lock and entry expansion. Jeremy or Charity, this is your turn.
We have a lot of user groups who right now they're key holders, which doesn't give us a shut-off switch. This would give us a shut-off switch, and they have entered when they weren't supposed to and done things they were not supposed to on several occasions. Not just one, and it's not just one user group, it's several user groups doing the same thing.
I think on this one, it's not just our regular user groups. Like when we rent out to Pembina Place, we have to give a key to our facility to
Bride and groom.
Yeah, like to the bride and groom, and the risk is high.
Those were all keyed separately. There was keys for the golf course side, there was keys for the cultural center side, and they only work in those areas. Did that change?
No, it hasn't. It hasn't changed. There's still a master key that all the staff have, and we roll around with a master key. But what the groups are given limits their access to certain areas. The issue is they're coming into certain areas without letting anyone know and doing things that, like we alluded to earlier, having
So
events.
this is the tracking benefit.
Yeah, yeah, and the benefit.
Mr. Mayor, you give the bride and groom a key, right? They have a key to certain areas. Nothing's stopping them from cutting that key.
Oh, no, I understand,
Yeah.
but other than the writing on it says do not duplicate. We've had that conversation.
Yeah, that is very true.
Well, and once they're in the building too, there's certain doors that have panic bars, which means they can get through to certain areas, such as we allow them in the lobby because that's where our ATM is, which also gives them, in the summer, they got to our field house because when they had kids playing games in the field house without our knowledge, it's just, no matter where we try to stop them, they always seem to find another way to get around it.
Yeah, and there's certain doors we can't lock for fire code.
Yeah, because of fire code.
And if someone loses their key,
Been there, done that.
you don't have to rekey the whole thing, right? You can just have one certain fob.
Shut off.
Shut that one off.
Definitely a big expense to rekey the entire facility. 54 Ave overlay in at 120. Again, this is one that we've received a lot of complaints about. Council's well aware of that, except new councillors, but
Oh, yeah. Trying to remember where the hell.
yeah, it was brought to council. And at the end of the day, we did a lot of patching, pothole patching in that area this year. But again, when it comes to service levels and residents' expectations, they don't want pothole patching. They want a better road. So
This is one where we'll have to do this is one we'll have to do a little bit of work to find out exactly what that pavement depth is, et cetera.
That's my question was on that. Okay.
yeah, so there's some areas you can clearly see. Actually, it's too bad I didn't bring my show and tell, but I did take a piece of asphalt from one of the other roads we've done. Generally speaking, if you do a 100 mil overlay, you do a 100 mil lift. But I can tell you that some of those aren't 100 mils.
No, you can see it.
There's a couple of them. They're about, I don't know, my index finger tip. But yeah, so we're aware there's an issue there. It's been existing for a while. We just don't know what the surprise is going to be underneath it because we don't know what the subgrade is like.
It's likely just put on black dirt.
And that's our biggest fear.
Yep.
Is either there's black dirt underneath it. So to give you an example, there was frost boils appearing in the golf course parking lot. When we dug down there, it was black soil underneath it. And so we filled it up full of, yeah, well, no. But patching material, yeah. So it's there's a lot of gravel and a lot of patching material there. But we're worried we're going to find the similar sort of thing here, or even worse, maybe it's organics.
But it has held up for 40 years.
Oh yeah, it's it's I guess it's done its job to a degree.
First 20 though, there was nobody except for two houses on that.
But yeah, so it's been around a while, and it's in pretty poor shape, and at the end of the day, it's receiving some complaints, and it comes down to level of service.
We've got 4 minutes left.
Brandon? Everyone's seen, well, actually everyone now has seen the 10-year plans.
Subject to change.
Yeah, so, and these are reasonably fluid. And the reason I say they're reasonably fluid is because if something emergent comes up, then we're likely going to put a little stop on this. But if you have any questions on this, let me know. 10-year gas line replacement plan. Again, as I alluded to in my original presentation, what maintenance strategy council chooses will dictate a lot of this stuff. And at the end of the day, we have a plan in place, but as I said, it's fluid. It can move. Any questions on the gas line replacement plan?
Where's that 38 line? Where's that run to, Chris? Highway 38, it's $130,000, right?
Is it a gas line?
Gas line. Highway 38, third one down. 28. I just wondered.
The Janard Industrial area, yeah, that's that one.
That would be a large line, would it not, going down in there? if I
Uh,
remember correctly?
Garnet, is that our supply line? Okay, sorry, so that'd be
No, the TC main line is our supply line, mate, sorry.
This, I think you're, what did I say first? It's the distribution line going
I think
across.
there was a 4-inch line.
The one that's not.
I do believe it's
connected, I believe.
Yeah, it's 4-inch.
I think there's a 4-inch line on that side of the highway.
The line you were referring to, the TC main line, is in a 2036 there. As we know, I spoke about it last year, but that main line has been in place for a long, long time. We do not know the history of it. It does come from TC and goes directly to our gate station. So it is a long stretch. It is a big replacement, and that piece that is in there at 290K is purely phase 1 because it's a long stretch of line. So we have, as I alluded to earlier, it does run through a. You'll see it if you go down. Actually, I shouldn't tell everyone, but it runs across a gravel road into and across a couple of ditches. Last year, we went out there and you could see massive ruts in that ditch. So we got a hydrovac out to daylight the line so we could see what it looked like and how deep it was. And I can tell you it is not very deep underneath that ditch. So
we did put some bollards around.
yeah, we put some cement bollards out there to try and prevent people. But they use our utility right-of-ways out there like a highway. And the quads, the side-by-sides, cars, all flying along those utility right-of-ways out there. Well, you should have seen the ruts in that. I used to have 30-inch tires on my quad, and it is a lot bigger than 30-inch tires out there. But at the end of the day, it's an old line, 70-plus years old. It's just something we don't want to muck around with. So we did barricade it off and make sure it's not open to getting hurt.
Funding.
So just before we end, because I know 2100's our timeline, so the caveat on this is our project costing, I think the best we have is September of this year. And we know that with the costs that are going up, that we may have to pivot on some of these this year, when costs start coming in. We understand that, and I'll give you an example of one where I know both Mr. Davison and I went, "What?" And that was the lift at Pembina Place. We got some quotes at like 85,000, and we're going, that doesn't sound like a lot, because that's buying the lift, that's redoing that's modifying the stands to get it in there, et cetera, right? Power, the whole works. It's like, if we get it for 85, that's awesome. But if that's an example, one where if it comes in any higher than that, we'll be here saying we either need more money or we're going to have to cancel the project. And I think in our discussions through budget, our realization is that we can't keep going into reserves for this stuff without replenishing it. So there's going to be coming a time, probably this year, where we're going to come and say, you know what, we can't go into our reserves. It came over budget. We either have to put that money away and save for another year to rebudget it, or we're just not doing the project.
Just a quick add-on to that, the most difficult part of this is the inability to rely on quotes. And the reason we can't rely on quotes, we need our quotes to be able to forecast our capital spend. The issue is you go out and get a quote and it's changed by January, and we can't go out to tender or to proposal, RFP, or anything along those lines until effectively January, because we can go out to proposal earlier, but it's whether or not they want to wait that amount of time and then do the work. It's a very cumbersome process, but it makes it very difficult when you've got to get quotes mid-year for budget in October, and by January they look completely different. So that's my final little piece.
Council, do you have anything through to administration you'd like them to take a look at prior to our next meeting?
Which is tomorrow, right?
we have the note on, sorry, we have the note on Counselor Brown, so we will
Yep.
be diving into that one nice and early tomorrow morning.
I'll look for a motion from council to recess until Thursday. Go ahead, Councilor Olson.
I'll make a motion that we recess till Thursday. Give Garnet a couple days to rest his vocals.
I think it's over.
Any discussion by council? Not seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? No opposition, that's carried. Thank you, everybody.